Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Keep It Down podcast. As always, I'm your host, Garrett, joined by my two brothers and co-host, Schmag. How you living, baby?
Boy, I am just so good. I'm excited. I'm kind of nervous. I'm ready for some conference championship football, boys.
Like a kid on Christmas. And TC, how you been, man?
Dude, I'm doing great. Got to echo that sentiment that Schmag just said. I'm really excited, man. Oregon posted one more sleep, and that's how I'm feeling tonight. Just one more sleep. We're watching Oregon play in Las Vegas for the Pac-12 championship tomorrow, boys.
Correct. And before we get into that, boys, as always, you can find us on Instagram at Keep It Down Pod. In our bio, you'll find our link tree, and that'll take you wherever you choose to consume your content, whether that be Twitter, TikTok, all podcast platforms, audio and visual on YouTube as well. Be sure to check that out. Boys, speaking of stuff we checked out, another great weekend of college football. Great for some, not so great for others. We're going to talk about it all. First, on the docket, is Florida possibly one of the worst performing teams in the country?
Yes, I think I could speak for everyone when I say yes. We were big Florida guys going into the weekend, and you need them to do one thing for you, okay? You haven't been good all year, and we just need this one thing out of you guys, and that's to knock Florida State out of the CFB race, and you guys couldn't get it done for us.
Dude, Florida has been just the most unpredictably bad team ever. Like they opened their season with a loss to Utah. You know what I mean? And Utah isn't the team even close to the team that they have been, right? And then they go along the road, have a couple decent wins, and then when we need them most, man, right when we need them most, they don't come through for us. And just such a Florida way to lose the game too. It was just such an ugly, horrible, stupid game. You got another Florida player doing something stupid and getting ejected from a game, spitting in someone's face, like just so unbelievably Florida, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's such a recalibration of expectations with Florida because, like,
Dude.
they go play Utah. They look decent. Utah was a little different team than they are later in the season, and then
Yeah.
it kind of just spirals from there. Like, they're not good on the road, and then you think, oh, this one's at the Swamp. This is really their shot, and then they just go ahead and disappoint you again anyway. So it's like,
Yeah.
man, it just drives me crazy about some teams how they just can't get it figured out, man. Can't get
Yeah.
her going in the right direction, but.
Yeah, so we know that Florida didn't look good. What did you guys think of how Florida State performed?
Mm. I mean, like I mean, they ended up with a win. I mean, it was ugly, but I mean, they won.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think that this next week coming up with Louisville, I think is like the real test. I think Florida was a good kind of like get your feet wet kind of game, for this new kind of thing that they're having to do. But I don't know, man. I'm sure they'll feel confident they can at least get a win, but I mean, this next one's going to be next is going to be it for them.
Yeah, I guess they looked as good as they could have without their starting quarterback per se. Defense and the running game kind of willed them to a win there,
Yeah.
which is good to see. But obviously we'll get into the playoff talk and all that stuff
Yeah.
more later on in the show. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the quarterback made a few throws, made a few mistakes. I just thought Florida didn't really capitalize on any of the mistakes that Florida State did make.
Yeah, I just think like the thing with Florida State, man, it's like it really showed like how like much Jordan Travis meant to that team. I think if Jordan Travis is playing in that game, I think we see a 60 to 10 kind of beat out of that. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, yeah, they won, but I mean, how good does it look that Florida State, even just with a backup quarterback, had that ugly of a performance against Florida, who's a dumpster fire?
Yeah, exactly. And here's kind of where I'm at with it. This is the first week after they lost Jordan Travis. So whether it's fair or not, you have a lot of people looking at that team wondering if they're going to be
Right.
justified getting one of those 4 spots without Jordan Travis.
Right.
Didn't look great, especially because like the main argument for them getting in is like the Ohio State team in 2016 when they were
Yeah.
down to the third string quarterback. That's kind of the main argument they have going for them. But I feel like the difference is that Ohio State team kept balling afterwards, and in particular, his backup quarterback looked great.
Yeah, I mean they won the Natty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of the barometer, That Ohio State team played Melvin Gordon in Wisconsin and beat them like 59-0 in the Big Ten championship game. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe we'll get a little more of a complete picture this week because Florida's an out of
Mhm.
conference game and all that different stuff. So neutral field against a really good, not great Louisville team, 2 losses, but kind
Yeah.
of standing right in the middle of the pack there. So I think this week will be a good barometer for what we're actually looking at.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, and then let's just, oh, just what a 14 days for Auburn, man.
Oh my god.
You go
Oh
last week,
gosh.
you get routed by New Mexico State. That sucks.
Mhm.
What's worse than losing? Everyone always says, absolutely failing the test is worse than just missing by one question. And that's
Mhm.
essentially what they did because, they get
Dude.
blown out by New Mexico State last week. And then this week, they are in the game until.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what do we think, boys? Is this just a sense of the Iron Bowl kind of craziness that always seems to surround these two teams, or is this a little telling about what Alabama truly is?
Well, I think that anything can happen in the Iron Bowl. I think at the announcers at one point they were like, "If you think this is the craziest Iron Bowl you've ever seen, you obviously haven't been watching that many years." Like it seems like every year, no matter where these teams are at, whether Alabama's won and Auburn's in the top 10 as well, or if they're both, out of the top 25, it's always just a wild game. It's a great rivalry. And yeah, I think Auburn just really had their day in the sun, almost pulled it out. I mean, really should have. That fourth down play, wild to end it.
I just couldn't. There were so many times during that game, and I'm just like, there's no way this is where we're at with this game currently. I mean, it was just like so many uncharacteristic penalties from Bama. Like Saban was losing his mind for like 3 quarters of the game, dude. And just like some really kind of lucky kind of stuff going on for Auburn. It was like, dude, the gods just wanted Auburn to win that game so bad. And then just an absolute I don't even know what to call that on that last play, that where Bam ended up scoring on the back of the end zone, dude. Like you just I mean, I don't know. The better team won. But just absolutely wild.
Yeah, just craziness, man. It seems like that game just always brings out something else with those two programs, and you love it, and that's why we play the games, boys. Um, moving on. Speaking of the game, Michigan, Ohio State. Um, I mean, this is kind of how the Big Ten's been built for years now. This is the game. Like this is the one that either is going to send a team to the playoff, or you're not going to get to the conference title game, and your chances for the playoffs are slim to none.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, Michigan without Harbaugh still just found a way to go out there and do it. I thought it was a lot closer than the last couple years have been. Feel
Mhm.
like really just some inopportune mistakes from Kyle McCord and the Buckeyes offense really lost them the game. I don't feel like the skill difference is really that different between Ohio State and Michigan personally.
Yeah, the skill difference really didn't show up at all. I thought I don't even know if there is one.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't feel like we found out anything new about these two teams. We knew that they both had great defenses, kind of struggled to move the ball at times. Um, Michigan just more complete. It seemed like ready to go. Maybe better quarterback play down the stretch for sure. But yeah, overall, awesome game. And I think this is what the Pac-12 was trying to avoid. We went to the number one in the conference, plays number two in the conference system a couple years ago, and it's like so situations like this don't come up. Like
Mhm.
Ohio State one loss doesn't even get a chance to play in the conference championship game. Imagine the buzz around this game if they're rematching this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why everyone obviously it's going to change next year with the addition of all the new teams, but I just don't understand the logic of like trying to be confident. Like you have one game that is an absolute like you have to win all of your games, and then you have to win the game against the best team before you even go play it in the conference championship. Like I don't just don't get Michigan and Ohio State's logic here. It doesn't make any sense. And I mean, same thing. If Michigan loses, like they're done. You're out 100%. Like you have no chance. A very very slim chance of making it to the playoff, which is the whole objective here, right? And I mean, the game, I think Michigan having Blake Corum finally, like for a whole game, I don't think he's played the last 2 seasons due to injuries. Like having him obviously was a big help. It took some of the heat off, JJ McCarthy. I mean, I just remember texting you guys during the game. Like Michigan is just extremely big up front, I think, and they know how to control the line of scrimmage. And Ohio State has Marvin Harrison Jr., and that's really kind of like it, in my opinion. I mean, it's just, yeah, we saw nothing new from either team. They just kind of went on with what they were currently doing. So,
Yeah, exactly. Moving on, boys. Oregon State. Just, you love to have it the Friday after Thanksgiving. Every time you wake up, you say, oh, there's Oregon football on today, boys. And you get up and you get excited, so you watch the game. And boys, did we watch quite the game indeed if you're an Oregon Ducks fan.
yeah.
31-7 was the final score. Just flat out looked like Oregon was better in every facet of the game. We looked bigger, stronger, faster. I mean, just whatever you want to say about it, I feel like we were that. Yeah, and kind of with our next topic, kind of blending it all into one. I don't know if this was a case of the Oregon in the 2021 Pac-12 championship game where your coach has one foot out the door kind of thing. So no one's focused, no one's doing anything like they would normally would. So, but I don't know what your guys' take on it.
Yeah, I mean, overall, just a really impressive performance by the Oregon Ducks, man. Like you said, Chach, just dominant in all three phases of the game. Um, and Oregon State, they did look really deflated, man. You can tell that their coach maybe didn't have them focused, as Chach mentioned. Didn't put enough preparation this week, and the Weeks came out and dominated, man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, remembering back to last season, that blown halftime lead that we have over Oregon State. Obviously, we came into this game and, um, we had a job to finish, and they kind of ended our season, you know, couldn't go to the Pac-12 championship because of that loss and all that. So I think there was a lot riding on this game, even though we didn't necessarily think that Oregon State was a great football team. There was just a lot riding on this. Obviously, if we lose that game, we don't go to the Pac-12 championship again this year. So I just think being able to put together a good game like that, even though our run game wasn't as good as we normally see it, it was still good, but not as good. And like still being able to like win that game handedly like that is just, I think it says a lot about our team and kind of how that offense and defense works.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I mean, this is the Civil War rivalry, man. This is like one of the longest standing rivalries in college football.
Right.
And Oregon State kind of punked us last year. They really did. I mean, in the second half, I don't believe they threw the ball at all. Overcame 17 or 21 point deficit to win the
Yeah.
game. And I think going into this year, we really took it personally, man. And it was kind of captured in that cinematic recap. Like
Yeah.
the whole owning the trenches was a huge theme throughout the whole week. And I
Mm-hmm.
think especially that offensive line was able to push them around quite a bit. And I think it was kind of the get back.
Yeah. Absolutely. It was a great win.
Yeah, and as we always talk about in the group chat, man, those cinematic recaps are just a thing of beauty.
Gold.
Shoot,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just crazy. Every week it blows my mind. But and then lastly, in the kind of recap round of things, Jonathan Smith to Michigan State. So this came out maybe 12 hours after the Oregon game, something like that.
Yep.
So it became quite evident that kind of the reason why Oregon State didn't seem like they really had any juice flowing or passion or anything like that. Like DC was saying, one of the longest standing rivalries in college football. So what do you think about the hire for Michigan State, boys?
I mean, for
Yeah.
Michigan State, I mean, I think it's a good hire. I mean, you're kind of just going up from where you're currently at, being Michigan State. I mean, you're just kind of getting punked around every year. I think Jonathan Smith is a good coach. I mean, this whole kind of like not finishing your season before going to your next opportunity. I just It just puts a bad taste in my mouth whenever you see it. You know what I mean? I mean, like that. There's a lot of people and players and like people's lives that you're kind of toying with a little bit. I think when you don't kind of finish the season. And you're right. I mean, Oregon State just looked deflated, and maybe they knew something we didn't. And just, I don't know. It doesn't always sit perfectly well with me.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, what I was going to say about it is people like to throw around the term sexy hire. I don't
Yeah.
think this was a very sexy hire.
I don't think so
Just
either.
kind of plain Jane, run the mill. But then again, I don't know how attractive of a destination Michigan State is right now for coaches and players alike.
Yeah.
They haven't really been making noise in that Big Ten. With Oregon, USC, Washington, UCLA coming next year, I don't know if things are getting any better there.
Yeah, I think like kind of the thing is it's like Michigan State doesn't have much of an identity, right? They're not known for being tough. They're not known for being fast or flashy or for a hard-nosed run game or anything like that. But on the other hand, like neither is Oregon State. So it's like when you're going outside to like hire a coach to like get people excited about coming to your school, like you normally go with someone who is known for something. But like Jonathan Smith is just known as, freaking Walmart brand Utah, in my opinion. I mean, like he tries to model that same kind of toughness, but I mean, it's not there. You know what I mean? So I don't. It doesn't. You're right, TC. I don't think it makes a ton of sense. I mean, I think it's better, but it's not what I think they should have waited a little bit and kind of put the feelers out a bit more, in my opinion.
Yeah, at least see who lets go of who after the season's actually over. So,
Yeah.
but the coaching carousel continues.
Yeah.
Boys, real quick. I know this is mainly a college football episode. We're in the thick of it, as one would say. Just got a couple little bullet points here, boys. Some NFL buzz, per se.
Yeah.
Kind of got dirt on everyone's team here. So first we're going to start with Schmag. Schmag, your Commanders are cleaning house. Thoughts,
Yeah.
concerns, comments?
I mean, I like Jack Del Rio. I liked him when he was with the Jaguars, and I liked him. I think it's just very, very obvious that um, especially I said it, when that trade happened, when we got rid of Sweat and Chase Young and we just shipped them off in the middle of the season. And I was just like, that's it, boys. Like, we're kind of giving up. We're kind of fighting for draft picks, even though we didn't even get anything good for both of them. I just think it was only a matter of time before Del Rio went. I mean, Rivera's still there. We still have Eric Benemy, and he's doing good things. I think he meshes really well with Sam Howell, but I don't know. The crazy thing is, man, we're only 2 games out of a wild card spot. 2 games out of a wild card spot with 5 games left, and it's like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're just over him that bad, but I mean, I don't know. I don't have super high hopes. I'm just hoping to have our key players healthy, getting through the rest of the season, and nothing drastic happens where we're missing time next season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Schmuck. So what's your guys' record right now?
4-8.
Okay, so yeah, you're 4-8, which obviously isn't how you want the season to go. But I feel like you guys did pick up some good pieces. And really mainly it's Sam Howell.
Yeah,
It kind of feels
absolutely.
like you guys are through the dark days and actually on the rise a little bit, even if the record's not reflecting it. So I
Yeah.
don't know like if I'm the only person that feels this way, but it almost feels unjustified. But what really I was going to ask you, Schmag, is you had mentioned on the pod a couple weeks ago that you kind of knew this was coming. Did it soften the blow at all, or are you still shook about it?
I mean, I think just kind of having a feeling like once, our defense just gets rid of players and you just can't lose by 30 something points on Thanksgiving Day, prime time to the Cowboys. You just can't do it as an organization. You just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, I don't know. I mean, we're obviously very much rebuilding, and I think we have a few pieces in place that we really, really like, obviously. And so maybe that front office knows a little bit more than I do, which I hope that they do. I think we're just, I think we're in a good trajectory. I just don't know if we're there yet. We'll have to see. We'll have to spend a whole off season with this new kind of vibe going on, and see how it goes.
Yeah. Hopefully, only good things coming for the Commanders, baby. Dark days are over, baby.
Yeah.
Speaking of dark days being over, Aaron Rodgers, boys,
Yeah.
79 days removed from a torn Achilles. Back at practice. Where to even begin? I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah, I guess the first question there is to ask is like, do we actually think he's going to play? Because I
I
know there's
mean,
a big theory out there that he's going to come back and practice and, seem like he's ready to go. And they're going to be like, oh, well, we're out of the race anyways. Like, it'd be dumb to bring Aaron back right now.
Yeah.
yes, but you have to understand, like, they went out and they were so aggressive in getting Aaron Rodgers. And, like, I don't see him coming back and being, like, because I just don't know, man. I mean, yeah, he's practicing and he's throwing passes and he's, doing, plays and stuff, but that's not a 300-pound defensive lineman chasing after you and tackling you and wrapping you up around the feet. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't doubt that he's taken his rehabilitation extremely serious, and obviously he's been very diligent about it to be able to even be doing what he's doing right now. It's just scary, man. It's just really scary, and I think for the Jets organization, as much money as they paid him, I don't know if it's worth it. But also, like, they brought him in because he is the guy. So I don't know, man. I don't know if what I'm more scared of, like him like having to wait till next season to play, or him playing this season.
Yeah, like obviously the overall goal is for him to come back and play, but it almost feels like the feat has already kind of been accomplished. You know what I mean? For him to even be back on the practice field is a
Yeah.
huge accomplishment and one that no one thought was a possibility that first weekend of football being back when he went down, man. Like no one saw
Right.
this coming, So I kind of feel like
Yeah.
he's already done it, like what he's trying to prove,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just trying to be the guy with the fastest recovery of all time.
Dude,
Mm-hmm.
it's I mean, it's insane, man. Like, I mean, I couldn't even put myself in that situation, dude.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So,
I need a minimum of 5 years recovery time on that one.
Right.
I guess really just the question is, will the Jets stick around long enough to make use of this? And only they have the answers to those questions. So,
Yeah.
um, speaking of sticking around to benefit from it, playoff pictures, boys.
Mm-hmm.
Who's a wagon and who's not a wagon? Okay, we'll start with the NFC. Give me two wagons and two teams that are overhyped.
Obviously, you got to go with Philly for being one of the wagons. Well, I do feel like they are overhyped just a little bit, and they haven't looked particularly great. The NFC is not very strong, so you're only gonna have to meet up with the other top teams like in playoffs, essentially. So I like Philly, and I like the Niners quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, coming into the season, I mean, I think that was kind of how we kind of felt. We knew Philly was going to be good, and the 49ers, I mean, if they were able to be successful with Brock Purdy last season, I mean, obviously giving him more experience and building around him a little bit more, I mean, I think they were kind of bound to be successful. Um, I mean, on the NFC side, dude, the Cowboys are just pretenders. I'm sorry, they will and will forever be pretenders. I know that they're in a good game tonight. I haven't checked the score of it, but I mean, they played two teams with a winning record this season, the
Yeah.
49ers and the Eagles, and they got creamed in both of those games. So, like, I mean, I just don't know what to tell them, dude. If Dak Prescott's your quarterback, you're no offense to the guy, but he's only going to get you so far. They just keep getting rid of people too. They just keep shipping people off, dude. And like, I don't know. Definite pretenders for me, though, in my opinion. So sorry, any Cowboys fans out there listening.
Yeah. I would retweet the sentiment that the Cowboys are the pretenders of the bunch. I
Yeah.
think some secret wagons though. A secret wagon in the NFC is the
Mm-hmm.
Lions.
Ooh,
My other secret
Lions
wagon.
are pretty consistent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like consistent as far as like how they play the game, as far as like not only run pass but offense defense goes, kind of a complete team. But they just don't like wow you,
Yeah.
But they are very consistent.
Yeah. And I think that loss to Green Bay on Thanksgiving kind of, I don't know, maybe it's a bias because I started their defense and they got me a big old whopping goose egg. Maybe that's why I'm hating right now. But
Yeah. Yeah, the Lions play very consistent football. I feel like they have a very specific team goal in mind every game they attack.
Yeah.
Um, I think the Lions and the Seahawks are my two non-wagon but could turn into a wagon teams.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then I agree. The wagons are pretty simple in the NFC. It's the 49ers and the Eagles.
Yeah.
AFC boys,
Yeah.
what are we thinking? Obviously, one of them is the Chiefs.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
went with kind of the safe choices for the NFC. So I'll give you guys some hot takes for the AFC. I really love the Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
Jaguars are in the AFC what the Lions are in the NFC. Super consistent team, young,
Mm-hmm.
on the up and coming, and they play in a pretty weak division. So, like, their divisional games down the stretch shouldn't be too tough. I don't know if they've already played Houston twice, but obviously the game this past weekend was a great
It's a
game.
great one. Yeah.
Houston's coming, but other than that, really weak division for them. So, I like the Jaguars quite a bit out of the AFC.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would also agree, dude. The Jaguars are just. I feel like they're just been really good about putting the pieces together and kind of getting people where they want to get people and kind of adding to like a really like solid base. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, I've said it once. I've said it a million times. Doug Peterson is just an amazing coach, and I think guys just want to go there, and guys like being there, and so they get the buy-in from them. From older guys, from younger guys. Like it's just a great place to be. It seems like. Houston's another exciting team. I didn't think I'd ever be a guy that'd be cheering for CJ Stroud in the NFL, but I mean, he's been just lights out lately. And I mean, he looks like a
Balling, yeah.
second or third year quarterback on some of these decisions he's making and like just looks poised. So I love to see that. Um, man, I mean, heartbreaker for the Bengals, man. I mean, we had a lot of faith in them. I said that I think they would be around for the long haul this year, but obviously, I mean, losing Joe Burrow is just devastating for that team. But
Yeah,
Yeah, boys. For me, the AFC, it's the Chiefs and the Dolphins. Those are the two wagons per se.
yeah,
Do you
I
disagree?
don't like the Dolphins.
I forgot
I
about the
think
Dolphins,
I think the Dolphins are a wagon.
I
dude.
don't think so, man, because it's the same thing we were talking about with Dallas. Like every time they play a good game, they crumble. I think like they're the fun team for sure. Obviously, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle are a great duo, but I think they are a fair weather team. I think when it gets cold and ugly and it's like a tough game late season, I don't know how much I trust them.
Hmm. That is the big
Yeah,
question mark. Is the
yeah,
once you get to the December, January months, how does it shape out? Because they've proven 2 years in a row they can be decent in the regular season. So it's just how do you get the postseason success to go with that?
yeah. I mean, Miami just to me personally, I think they're a really, really good team. I would even consider them a great team in some ways. Um, they just seem more like Monday night in September kind of team. Maybe not so much Sunday night in Foxborough in freaking December. So I mean
Mhm.
we'll see on the Dolphins. I think they're fun. I think they're exciting. I think Tua is. I mean he's improved so much even from last year, dude. I know he had the injury issues last year, but just looks like a completely different quarterback in my opinion.
Yeah, and then one more team I wanted to touch on was the Buffalo Bills, man. Obviously, a really tough loss last week, but
Yeah.
you know what? I don't think they belong in either category. They're not a wagon. They're not a pretender. But I can guarantee you this: no one wants to play them in the first round of the playoffs as a wild card team.
Hmm.
I was just about to say that, dude. Nobody is going to want to play them just because, they can lose by 30 or they can win by 30. They're just kind of whatever team shows up that day.
Yeah, we're getting close. I think there's 5 weeks left, something like that. So
Yeah.
a lot of these questions will be answered very, very shortly, boys. So
Yeah.
Hmm.
uh, moving on, TC, what is going on with your Steelers, man? What's going on in their psyche?
Yeah.
I think there's just so much going on right now, all at the same time. Obviously, Matt Canada leaving kind of gave us a little bit of a spark this week, man. Offense looked better. We only put up 16 points, so it's kind of tough to say that. But we did have over 400 yards of offense. We moved the ball pretty consistently. But I think the big topic is definitely the drama that's been surrounding this team, whether it's Najee, whether it's George Pickens, and now in the latest edition, it's Deontay Johnson. Either you boys want to talk about this before I go in on it?
So this is my thing about the Steelers. TC, I obviously love them. I think they're a great organization. I think Tomlin is one of the GOATs, dude, and I will die on that hill. But just kind of some uncharacteristic issues going on in Pittsburgh this season, man. Like Tomlin isn't a big drama guy. He doesn't like having all that stuff going on. I think there's just kind of been a lot of it. I think getting rid of Canada was huge. I think that the Bengals do have a very good defense, especially they have a very good rush defense. I think their front four are extremely good. So I mean, yeah, they only put up 16 points with the new OC for right now, but I mean, still a good win over Bengals defense in my opinion. So um, the Deontay Johnson issue, I think. I think because of the position that he plays, I think it's way easier to see when something like that happens. You know what I mean? But I think there are times when it happens to NFL players where he might not have known everything that was going on. Should he have? Yes. Is he going to learn? Yes. Is he ever going to do that again? No, he's not. But people have those moments. People do way worse and have done way worse, and I think he'll be fine. I think he's going to be just fine. Everyone on Twitter needs to chill out for 5 seconds. Like relax.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is, it might not be as big of a deal as people on Twitter or the video makes it look to be. But obviously the only people who know that are Deontay Johnson, Mike Tomlin, and the walls in the Steelers facility. But TC, what's your take on the whole ordeal?
Yeah.
Yeah, so to kind of break down the Deontay Johnson thing first, it was kind of a perfect storm because if you remember the play before, he has the ball in his hands in the end zone and gets it punched away late. Ball that should have been caught. Okay, so you drop the touchdown pass essentially. This is the very next play. And it's just how I think the reason why it looks so bad is how the play started. He doesn't even attempt to block his guy at all, just kind of
Yeah.
like standing there. And then the fumble happens. He doesn't see it or doesn't react to it, one or the other. Either way, it's just as bad.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a perfect storm of three things all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
As far as like the Steelers drama as a whole, I mean, I don't think Tomlin is the guy that's going to let kind of the internal conflict really leak out into the media as far as what's going on inside the locker room.
Yeah.
Obviously, if something happens on social media or something as evident as the Deontay Johnson play, it's going to be talked about. But I think there's some internal conflict going on for sure. I don't know if it's with Kenny Pickett or offense versus defense. We know that Minka got into it with, I believe, Deontay Johnson like 2 weeks ago. So I
Yeah.
don't know exactly what's going on inside that locker room. I think it's one of those deals where if we go out and win a playoff game, you'll probably never know what was going on in the locker room. But if things turn out bad for us this year, it'll probably all come out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
just
just
think too. I just think the Steelers though they're still competitive, and I still think they're close. And so I feel like you're trying to kind of deal with this like all on the fly. It's not like a here hold everything and let's talk about this. It's like hey, we are in a very very tough division still, and we have a real chance at this thing. So like we got to get this figured out like on the now kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that maybe is kind of where they're at. Because I mean, they're still very much in a wild card position. You know what I mean? And I mean, not too far back from the Ravens at this point.
Yeah, and I guess the overall outlook on this year is like you're in a conference that has Patty Mahomes, Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, like CJ
Yeah,
Stroud emerging, Aaron Rodgers, Tua Tagovailoa, like, and
yeah,
Kenny Pickett's going to go in a football game. Like, I think that should be considered a huge success for the year if we go out and accomplish that.
yeah,
mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah, and boys, that's all we have. Let's get back into the real meat and potatoes of this week, okay? Let's
Hmm?
talk about the college football playoff. What rankings we got, any changes we would make, and I have compiled three
Yep,
scenarios for you boys. Okay,
I love it. I want to get
I've
into the
sc-
scenario so bad.
I've
Yeah.
scoured across all the interwebs and found kind of what I was seeing the most of and what's most plausible. So I've got those for you. First,
Okay.
let's
Yeah,
talk about the rankings. Only
Okay.
switches were Georgia still won, Michigan bumped to two, or were they? No, they were already at two.
yeah, there too.
Yeah, there are
No,
two.
Michigan stays at
they
No. No,
No,
Ohio
Ohio
State was
State.
2.
Yeah, Ohio State was 2. So
Yep.
Michigan jumps
Michigan.
Ohio State, obviously. Ohio State falls to, nope, sorry, going out of order. Michigan, 2. Washington jumps to 3. Florida State sticks at 4. You got Oregon 5, Ohio State 6, Texas, about Alabama 7, 8. So pretty typical what we expected. I thought there was maybe a slim chance that Oregon sneaks into the top 4 anyways, even Florida State's still winning. Kind of a scrappy game, but also I'm not surprised that they didn't, that Florida State stuck at 4. What are your thoughts, boys?
Yeah, so I think the committee really kind of showed their hand, right? You have Washington there at 3, which is huge. That's kind of the committee telling you that they think Florida State's vulnerable, right? The fact that they were able to rank Washington above them. But
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I was surprised by is the fact that Ohio State is ahead of Texas still.
And
That they only
Alabama.
dropped them back to number 6. I think it kind of tells a lot about what they think of Texas.
yep,
The fact that they're
yep.
willing to put Ohio State, who has played 2 ranked games this season and lost one of
Mhm.
them, ahead of Texas.
Yeah.
So I think it says a lot, and I think they still obviously they really like Ohio State, they really like Marvin Harrison Jr., and that tells me a lot about what they think about Texas, which makes us as Oregon fans, I think I'm able to rest a little easier knowing that.
Yeah, which
If
is kind of crazy.
if it came down to that, right? To the Texas conversation.
Yeah, it's insane. And I mean, Alabama is a one-loss team this year, heading into the SEC title game. And Texas is their one loss on their resume.
Wild.
You know what I mean? Like, that is a huge quality win. And really, an Alabama win this week can only help their case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then let's just slide right into scenarios, boys. So I got 3 pre-cooked, and then if we can think of any others, we can add them.
Okay.
This one is scenario A. So you got Oregon beating Washington. You've got Texas beating Oklahoma State. You've got Georgia beating Alabama. You've got Michigan beating Iowa, and Florida State beating Louisville.
So this is
This
your
one,
everyone wins scenario here.
this is the
This
favorites
is the
pick.
favorites win. Yeah,
This is the favorites win. So I mean, really, the way you look at it, there's a committee nightmare scenario on here, and this is really the second. This is like committee nightmare junior scenario.
Me.
Because I mean, you got to think Georgia, Michigan are auto bids. Those 2 are locked.
Yeah.
No matter what way you slice it. So really got Oregon, Texas, Florida State, 2 spots. What would you do? What do you think the committee would do?
So, what I would do first, Pac-12 championship winner winning in for probably that 3 seed. But behind the 2 that are locked. I think both of those teams are great. They both had great seasons. Probably gonna be one of the best, one of the top 4 teams in the country. You know, if you're talking about best teams in the country, I would definitely slide them in there. For the number 4 spot, I would not put Florida State there. I can tell you that off rip. I guess it's going to have to be Texas for me. I think with the win over Alabama, that's probably the biggest win out of anyone in the country in Tuscaloosa. So definitely deserving, and the Big 12 title champ.
Yeah, I mean, I think this all depends on how the Georgia and Alabama game goes and how close it is. Because how close that game is directly correlates with how Texas gets into the college football playoff, right? If Alabama goes in there and gets absolutely dog walked, no pun intended, except for pun intended by Georgia, it's not going to look good for Texas. And I don't think they'll let Texas in. But if Alabama can go and keep an extremely competitive game, lose by a touchdown, lose by 3 points, it makes Texas look very good. And then I think that way Texas would get the nod. But if Alabama looks horrible against Georgia, I think Florida State would get the nod over Texas. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it. I just think that's how it would go.
Yeah, and on the flip side, I think that the committee is probably going to go with Florida State if they win. In any other scenario, Florida State wins, I think the committee will probably put them in.
Yeah, I mean, it's never been done before where, a conference champ, an undefeated conference champ doesn't get in. I mean, just this year, there's a lot of competitive teams, man.
And then moving on. Scenario B, boys. This is the dogs, okay? So you got Washington beating Oregon. You got Alabama beating Georgia. You got Michigan losing to Iowa. So you're looking at Washington, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, and Georgia. 4 spots. You got 13-0 Washington, a 13-0 Pac-12 champ Washington, 12-1 SEC champ Alabama, 11-1 12. Does it 12-1? Yeah, it'd be 12-1 non-Big Ten champ in Michigan, and 11-1 non-Big Ten champ in Ohio State, and a 12-1 non-SEC champ in Georgia.
Yeah, so in that scenario,
Texas also loses in this scenario. Sorry,
yeah.
Texas
in that scenario. Okay. In that scenario, Washington probably won. Bama maybe 2. You're probably still putting Georgia in there. But where the rub is how do you put in Michigan or Ohio State without the other one? So those 3 for sure. I don't know. Who do you think would get that 4th spot, Schmag?
These are tough, dude. All 3 of these, like there's no winning if you're the committee. You have to leave a team out.
Did Florida State win in this scenario?
Yeah, no, Florida State loses. They're the favorite.
Okay. Well, Florida State's gone. I mean, it's got to.
You got to take Michigan, right?
I think Michigan still gets in, even if they lose.
You got the head-to-head win.
I mean, it's classic TCU from last season, right? TCU lost their conference championship game to a Kansas State team.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Probably classic TCU situation. Michigan probably gets
seed, right? TCU got it as a 3 seed.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd probably go. Yeah, I mean, Washington 1, Bama 2.
Georgia, Michigan? Georgia 3, Michigan 4?
I guess so. And then Bama and Georgia got to play again. Dude, imagine having to play Georgia or Bama 2 weeks in a row.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I guess they have a little bit of a break, but 2 games in a row. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be nuts.
See, that's a tough one, man. Everyone losing also. Like, we talk about everyone winning, kind of that nightmare scenario, but everyone losing too. I don't know if that's a great scenario either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just makes it muddy because you're missing conference championships, which is kind of the way to weed everyone out and pick who's who. But when that factor is gone, it's a little different.
Also, just saying that Washington at 1 just makes me want to freaking vomit all over the place.
Yeah, it does.
Because they're definitely not the best team in the country. I mean, even if they were to win, they're still not the best team in the country.
No.
And then, all right, boys, this is the nightmare scenario for the committee. Oregon beating Washington.
Yep.
You got Texas beating Oklahoma State. Alabama beats Georgia. Michigan beats Iowa. Florida State beats Louisville. So you've got Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Michigan, Florida State, and a 1-loss Georgia. 4 spots.
Yeah. Go ahead, Spark. Okay. This is kind of, I feel like, my dream scenario here.
Yeah. I feel like this one used to sound a lot worse, but I think it's simple now.
So you have Michigan 1. Possibly Oregon 2.
Whoa.
I'm talking about Bama 3. And I'm really loving Texas for number 4.
Because
how do you put Bama in without Texas?
Yeah, if Alabama's in, Texas is de facto getting drugged with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. I think Michigan goes number 1. I think Oregon gets an either 2 or a 3 seed. They might even just replace Washington at 3, to be completely honest with you. They'll just do a clean swap.
Mm-hmm.
And then who... Yeah, I mean, you just can't put Bama in without Texas. You know what I mean? Even if Florida State is undefeated. Like, Like, I mean, if Georgia loses, they're done. They're gone. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, barring anything else. But I mean, I don't know. I think if they were going to leave a team out in that scenario, I think it has to be Florida State. It's unfortunate and it sucks. And I mean, if Florida State goes out and earns that spot and they don't get it, like that sucks for them. But I just don't think you can. But I don't know though, man. They did put Ohio State ahead of Texas, so I mean, I don't know, dude. I just don't know how they feel about Texas.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Is like in that scenario, it'd mean Bama and Texas both jumping Ohio State. Now,
Right,
Ohio State's essentially idle. They are idle, not playing this week. So you can
right,
see it happening, but still a little bit crazy to think.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as
I
far
mean,
as go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as far as what the committee will probably do,
yeah,
in this scenario is Florida State winning, right, Chach?
Yes.
Okay. So what the committee would probably do is instead of Texas, you're talking about FSU, maybe at the 3 seed, possibly 2.
yeah.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah, I mean the scenarios are crazy, and I mean
Yeah,
you could. That's the thing. Like we could talk about resumes and all this and that and the other till we're blue in the face, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately it's the committee's decision to make. So, and the great
yeah,
news is we get to watch the games unfold this very weekend, boys.
yeah.
Yeah.
So with no time wasted, that's where we're getting to, boys. This is the conference championship pick'ems. First on the slate, we got the seventh-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide against the number one Georgia Bulldogs in Atlanta. The line's sitting at 5.5 for the Bulldogs. I'm taking Georgia here. I think it will be close, but ultimately, I don't think Alabama has the talent on offense, specifically the quarterback position, to make the difference to beat a well-rounded team like Georgia.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Georgia as well. Obviously, Bama has been really hot as of late. Georgia, I feel like, is the more consistent team. And I think that's going to travel well. I'm going Georgia.
Yeah, I think Bama just been in way too many close games with crappy teams this season. I mean, I just saw a picture, dude, and like beating Texas A&M by like 3, beating Arkansas by 3. Like they haven't been that consistent Bama team that we've always known and loved. So I'm gonna go Georgia. And honestly, dude, side note, real quick before we move on, the fact that the SEC championship game is in Atlanta every single year and Georgia being the team that's in it almost every single year is absolutely criminal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a home game for them. You know what I mean? It's wild. I mean,
Exactly.
Oregon felt that when we went and played them. You know what I mean? It's a home game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this one's going to be an absolute banger. Moving on to a game that is not going to be an absolute banger, I don't think. 18 Iowa versus 2 Michigan. This one's in Indianapolis. The line's sitting at 21.5 for Michigan. I don't think we need to debate this one for too long. Taking Michigan.
Yeah, not a lot to be said here. If it was a contest of who could punt the ball more, you're probably going with Iowa. I actually saw a really funny meme though. It was like Michigan, and it was like no offense can defeat us, and Iowa, well, we have no offense.
Yeah, this,
So,
this game's gonna be bad.
pretty fun way to sum up the game. But yeah, I'm going Michigan, man.
Yeah, I got Michigan here too.
Yeah, short and sweet for that one. All right, 15 Louisville for Florida State. This one's like the old NC Bank Stadium, baby. Shout
Mhm.
out Charlotte. Um, Looking like the line's 4.5 in favor of Florida State. Um, this one's tough, man. Just for my bias, I'm gonna take Louisville. I don't feel great about it, but I think they can get it done.
Yeah, I'm actually going Louisville as well, Chach. I think it's going to be like a 31-21 type of vibe. Florida State just did not look good last week. Obviously, very vulnerable right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would feel better picking Louisville if weren't coming off of a loss last weekend. You know what I mean? But I mean, for our own sake, I got to go Louisville here.
Um, All right, then we got 19 Oklahoma State and 7 Texas. This one's at AT&T Stadium in Dallas. Line sitting at 15.5 for Texas.
Have these two teams played each other yet this season?
No.
No.
Yeah, I think everyone was kind of hoping for the Oklahoma Texas rematch in the championship game, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. You got to win the games to get there. That being said, I'm going to take Texas to win, and they'll probably cover, honestly, as well.
Yeah, it's huge that that Oregon has a chance to play Washington again to avenge the only loss of the year. That's something that Texas isn't going to have the chance to do, man. Just like Chach said, everyone was hoping that Oklahoma was going to meet them in the Big 12 championship game. That has not happened. I think Texas wins it, but I don't know how much it helps them in the long term, man.
Man, yeah. I mean, just looking at just Oklahoma State season. They did beat Oklahoma in that rivalry game, and Oklahoma beat Texas. Am I gonna do it?
No.
You going to do it?
I mean, I picked Oklahoma State once last season. They let me down. Said never pick them again.
Okay. So where are we at today?
Oh!
Well, you see, smack the classic
No,
picker guy.
no. I'm gonna go Texas. I'm gonna go
All right, you're
Texas.
going Texas.
Wow. And then last, but very not least, 3 Washington, 5 Oregon in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Vegas is laying 9.5. I even saw today that it even shifted to 10 in some markets this afternoon. I'm taking Oregon to win. I'm taking Oregon to cover. I think this is it.
Oh, it's Oregon to the moon, brother. You know, we'd never put Oregon in our Pickems because we know it's going to be a little bit rhetorical when we ask the question, right? Obviously, we're all going to sweep it for Oregon. I think we dominate this game, man. I think we do a great job of avenging the loss. We really get that bad taste out of our mouth. Then I think we're really going to do it. It's not a fairy tale dream to think we're winning the Pac-12 championship this year, boys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got Oregon by at least 14 here. I mean, I had a feeling, and I told you guys about this the week of the Utah game. I said, how cool would it be if we just went out and just obliterated Utah and just really made a statement? And I've had that same exact feeling just this whole week. I just think ever since that first matchup that we had with Washington, I think we have consistently gotten better, and I think Washington has played not to lose. And when you play not to lose, most of the time you're going to lose. So I hope they're all healthy. I hope McMillan's healthy. I hope Polk's healthy. I hope Penix is good to go and 100%. And I hope they give us their best, and I think it's ours.
Yeah, I agree. I share all those same sentiments. We were a 4th down away from winning this game in Seattle. So when you think about it being on a neutral site, it's really only good things for the Ducks.
Yep.
Most experienced college football quarterback that's ever been. Heisman hopeful, on the brink, everything right in front of us.
Yep.
I think it's just meant to be.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not like we're playing SC in the games in Vegas. This is a far travel for either team. You know what I mean? So let's see whose fan base shows up more. That's going to be really interesting in Las Vegas, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, boys, it's a loaded weekend. As you do. Why don't you leave the people with something to think about on these couple days before Selection Sunday, everything gets grinded.
Yeah, guys, just get in that couch, put on that TV, and just sweat it out like the rest of us, man. This is the final week of the college football season before playoffs are picked. So I mean, tensions are high right now, guys, and I think we're just all really looking forward to what happens this weekend, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the first year in a while where every single, conference championship game has meant so much. You know what I mean? So, yep, I'm excited. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you guys soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys. Take care. As always, peace.